I'm Howie Mofshevitz. I'm the co-founder and director of the Denver Silent Film Festival. The short of it is that the Denver Silent Film Festival is 2.5 days of silent films. And that's all. I think that we're, from top to bottom, a class act. We choose good films. We have fine musicians. We show films on film, which is lovely and warm and beautiful. And we take the trouble to make sure that everything is projected the way it ought to be. Chaplin doesn't sort of jerk around and move too fast. Chaplin is an incredibly beautiful and graceful human being. And when silent film is shown properly with good prints, it's elegant and magnificent and gorgeous, and sometimes it's really funny, sometimes it's really touching. But when it's done right, it has that incredible range. And silent film doesn't lack sound. Sound was in fact possible long before filmmakers wanted to use it. Mary Pickford is famous for having said that she thinks it would have made more sense if the movies had begun with sound and then given it up, rather than the other way around. Because silence in film is particularly beautiful. The filmmakers who understand silence, they know that it allows the human imagination more room than film with dialogue. You know, I know of a film director who once said that there's nothing he can put on screen that's half as interesting as what you have in your head. And that's incredibly beautiful. I firmly do not believe in the notion of old films. People say, oh, it's an old film, blah, 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 blah. Well, Picasso's paintings are old, or Shakespeare's plays are old, and on and on and on. And I don't think that old has any more to do with film than it does with other arts. These are terrific films. We show them because we believe that they are terrific films. And that's it. That's the symbol of it. Donald Sosin, who's one of our accompanists and who is the resident composer at Lincoln Center in New York, is one of the great and famous accompanists in the world. And what he does with us is he comes out the day before the festival. He meets a group of student musicians. They meet and they start to work. And by Saturday afternoon, that's 2.5 days later, this group of musicians has become an orchestra. They have composed a score and they will perform it. This year they're going to do 2 films. The first is a film called Berlin, Symphony of a Great City, which is a lovely poem to the city of Berlin in the late 20s. It's kind of abstract, it's sort of distant in some ways, but there were a lot of filmmakers at this time who were interested in the rhythms of city. It was something that filmmakers were discovering. So they're going to play for that film, and they're also going to do a score and perform it for a 37-minute film from France called Ménilmontant. Pauline Kael, who's one of the great critics of the 20th century, once said that she thought Ménilmontant may be the most beautiful film ever made, and I'll tell you, I wouldn't argue that. I adore this film. I think one reason I helped start the Denver Silent Film Festival is so we could show it. Another film that I quite love in this festival is The Thief of Baghdad. It was directed by a guy named Raoul Walsh, who became known as one of the tough guy directors. And it's interesting to see this because it doesn't look like a film by a tough guy. It looks like a film by a guy who had a real sense of a kind of almost transcendental beauty. You know, I always caution people, don't think that The Thief of Baghdad has anything at all to do with Baghdad. It's purely what people from the West have imposed on the Middle East. This has nothing to do with actual Middle East. It's the romanticism that the West has for that part of the world. The film says, in its way, that if you're going to be capable of achieving love, you've got to be part thief. And I think that's a beautiful notion. You know, that if you're not willing to steal something, you're not going to have love. We're showing a film that may be the most problematic film in the history of the movies. It's called The Birth of a Nation, which was made in 1915, so 2015 is the 100th anniversary. And the problem with the film is that it is profoundly racist. The hero of the film is the Ku Klux Klan. It's a tremendously important film to see. It's a wonderful film to see because the filming is so beautiful. Griffith also, in The Birth of a Nation, has, not only just for his time, but for our time, a dramatic sense of space and how to organize space. His battle scenes are huge and incredible. If you can, ignore what it's about, it's stunning, absolutely stunning. The British poet John Keats talked about, in the early 1800s, that the problem with art is that it can make anything beautiful. And this film shows that. To help it out, we're going to have a very good panel discussion afterwards with some really smart people who can talk about a lot of these things. Relevance is a really tricky concept with art. Because, if art is any good, it's never relevant in some kind of straight out literal way. It's not going to tell you, what you should wear tomorrow, and it's not going to tell you what you should think necessarily or how to do your job, or it's not going to tell you how to get Iran not to build nuclear weapons. But it's beautiful, and I think beauty counts for a whole lot. That it takes you out of yourself, which I think is something really important for all of us. What I hope that people get out of this festival is the thrill of seeing terrific filmmaking. It's that simple.